Tonight, a Saskatoon family calls for more scrutiny after a teen goes to the gym and doesn't make it home alive. And Minecrafting, a safer online experience. A Saskatchewan version of the popular game earns an award. Plus, with playoff hopes hanging by a thread, Riders prep for a must-win game against the Stampeders.
This is CBC Saskatchewan News.
It's Tuesday, October 18th. CBC Saskatchewan News starts right now. Good evening, and thanks for joining us. A Saskatoon family says their son's death is suspicious, and the police should be treating it that way. The 18-year-old university student was found dead in his car outside of a Saskatoon gym just before Thanksgiving weekend. As Pertush Dayal reports, strange banking activity after his death is fueling his family's calls for more investigation.
18 years old.
Shazia Nureen holds her son's engineering cap. Syed Shehraz Ahmed was nearly 19 and studying to be a civil engineer at the University of Saskatchewan. His mother tells me in Urdu that she has lost a piece of her heart.
वो मेरा heart था, मेरा heart मेरा बच्चा था, मेरा heart चला गया, लेकिन मुझे जिंदा रहना है.
Her husband says on October 6th, Shiraz went to his gym at Confederation Mall around 5:30 p.m. When he did not return home, his parents got worried. So Shiraz's mother went down to the gym around 9:30 that night, only to be told that her son was still inside. His car was parked outside. But when their calls went unanswered or cancelled later in the night, his mother grew suspicious. She says her son never cancelled her calls. His sister headed back to Confederation Mall. When Shiraz's sister reached the parking lot, she found Shiraz unresponsive in the driver's seat in this very spot. The family says his death is suspicious. They say the coroner service showed them a video of Shiraz working out before his death, and Shiraz looked healthy and fit.
I see him in a camera when he was leaving a gym. He was perfect. Nothing wrong. All happened outside a gym. Why not they show us a outside a gym video?
The family says police are treating it as a natural death, but they believe there was foul play. They say a credit card and some cash were missing from Shiraz's wallet. And the morning after Shiraz's death, 3 transactions were made on his debit card for nearly $200.
In my opinion, they didn't do proper job. Everybody want justice for Shiraz.
Saskatoon police declined to comment, saying it's waiting for coroner's investigation to conclude. The coroner's service says it has conducted an autopsy and is awaiting toxicology results. Pratish Dayal, CBC News, Saskatoon.
Public consultations continue for 5 major projects that could shape Regina's downtown for decades. And the committee in charge admits they're hurrying through. Here's Alexander Kwan to explain why.
The public consultations are crammed into 1 week, and we now know why. The Catalyst Committee is exploring 5 major projects: a new aquatic facility, a replacement for the Brand Centre, a possible baseball stadium, an outdoor soccer field, and the modernization of the Central Library. Today's public consultations focused on the new aquatic centre, which would serve as a replacement for the aging Lawson Pool. Officials confirmed they want to apply for federal grants, and applications for the Investing in Canada infrastructure program are due by March.
This will be before Council in early January 2023. Council will make a decision about siting. We'll complete the application process, and the application will be in on time. But it's a hurried process because of these deadlines.
Part of the rush is that the federal grant requires that a location be selected for the project. 2 options were presented to the public on Tuesday. They include a space at the existing Lawson facility and the former rail yards near Dewdney. One of the co-chairs compared the decision on the aquatic facility to tipping the first domino in a sequence. Everything else will follow.
And the site selection for this is so important. I think it actually will influence some of the other decisions.
The Aquatic Centre would carry a $170 million price tag, and a federal grant could cover 45% of the cost. But the rapid pace needed to apply for the funding is making some residents upset. There are only 8 public consultation meetings, and they're all scheduled for this week. Those who are not able to make it are being directed to a survey on the city's website.
I don't think that's adequate at all. Given the level of money these projects are going to cost us all, given the questions that many people have about them, I believe this process is being overly rushed, and we need to take a second sober look at what matters in this city.
But for now, this is the only consultation process available to residents. A report that recommends which of the 5 projects to go forward with and how is due by the end of this year. Alexander Kwan, CBC News, Regina.
The NDP opposition and some Indigenous leaders are slamming the government's consultation process. They want a moratorium on the sale of Crown land until Indigenous communities are guaranteed a say. First Nations chiefs in the NDP held a press conference today calling for duty to consult legislation. They say it would require the province to consult with Indigenous communities before starting a project or selling land located in their traditional territory. The current policy lets the government decide if or when it consults with Indigenous people. The province is reviewing that policy, but the opposition says that's not enough.
Stop trying to ram through a policy that has no teeth. We don't need more ineffective policies when it comes to duty to consult. We need legislation for duty to consult. Policy is not enforceable. Legislation is.
When it comes to consulting with us, they can pick and choose who they want to consult with because proximity is not in the policy. So that's a problem. So if we're right next door to a project, proposed project, they don't have to consult with us.
The First Nations leaders say the government is selling off land that Indigenous people use for hunting and fishing. Some advocates are concerned about a planned revamp of the Indigenous foster care system. The federal funding changes are meant to give communities autonomy over Indigenous child welfare, but they are creating uncertainty for many who depend on agencies that have filled that need. Olivia Stefanovic reports.
Keeping families and communities together is the goal of this Indigenous-run Child and Family Services agency.
I went from being homeless to being housed.
I had a very, very good foster parents.
I've never had a child in my care previous to this current experience, so it really helped guide me. It also helped me become involved in the Indigenous community.
But there are fears that progress could roll back under a major revamp of the First Nations child welfare system, diverting funding from agencies to communities.
We have been scrambling over
the executive director says the agency faces a 20% cut of its budget, $10 million by next year.
What we're really worried about is this resulting in a massive spike in kids entering the child welfare system, which is, I think, the opposite direction that we want to go.
Critics say the Liberal government needs to stop taking half measures on reform.
That the federal government wants to download all their obligations, but if they download it without proper funding, children are going to get hurt, and First Nation communities are going to be blamed.
The Indigenous Services Minister says Ottawa will do whatever it takes to ensure First Nations people have autonomy over child welfare.
Will it be seamless? I hope it will be as seamless as possible.
The transition of critical dollars, part of a $20 billion overhaul, Ottawa plans to finalize with Indigenous leaders by the end of the year.
The child that is receiving services would continue to do so, but under a different service delivery arrangement.
But the people who depend on agencies are still stuck in limbo, not knowing whether the services they desperately need will even exist in a few months from now. Olivia Stefanovic, CBC News, Ottawa.
A version of a popular online game designed here in Saskatchewan has won a national award for innovation in mental health care. You may have heard of Minecraft. It's a game where kids use block-like characters to build virtual worlds. But like many online spaces, it's not immune to cyberbullying. So the Saskatchewan branch of the Canadian Mental Health Association developed a mentally safe Minecraft server. Players can reach out for help if they're struggling or in a mental health crisis.
Often someone just wants someone to stay with them and talk with them. It can be an hour, it can be more than 1 hour. And if staying with that person for that period of time will make them feel better, then I do it.
The Council of the Federation, which includes all of the premiers, has recognized the mentally safe Minecraft server with a $5,000 prize. The Mayor of Ottawa has been testifying at Day 4 of the Public Order Emergency Commission. The inquiry is examining the use of the Emergencies Act to end last winter's convoy protest in the capital. Jim Watson told the commission he fully supported the use of the act.
We're not swallowing our pride by saying we could do it all on our own. We needed help, and we needed the help of the other two orders of government.
Watson testified that he was frustrated with the provincial government's response. He said Ontario Premier Doug Ford initially refused to take part in meetings about how to handle the protest, calling them a waste of time. The mayor also said he was unhappy with the RCMP's response to requests for assistance. He said the Mounties pledged to send officers, but most of them were dedicated to protective services for the Prime Minister and Governor General. Officials from the Ottawa Police and the Ontario Provincial Police are expected to testify later this week. Unless things start to go the Saskatchewan Roughriders' way, their season will be over in less than 2 weeks. A 5-game losing streak has left their playoff hopes hanging by a thread. They have 2 games left to play. The Riders' loss in Hamilton has given the Tiger Cats the advantage in the fight for the 3rd playoff position in the East. Any combination of Cat wins and Rough Rider losses equaling 2 will eliminate Saskatchewan from the playoffs. With everything riding on Saturday's game against Calgary, it was curious to see Mason Fine taking quarterback reps at practice today and not Cody Fajardo.
Right, so we just came in, learned the game plan as usual, and then you go look at the script, and the practices are script, and I saw 8 was on all the scripts, so I just looked at the plays, made sure I was prepared for this practice, and I came out here and I executed to the best of my abilities and try to be a good leader and a quarterback for the offense. I'm just out here just doing my job, and it's just like anything. I show up to work, and I'm going to do what I'm told to do and go make the most of it.
Hey, trust me, those guys need vet days, a lot of them need some rest, and he wasn't the only one. We took it easy a little bit on 11 today, and Adam, we try our best to try to let those guys get mental reps. They don't need the physical at this stage.
Turns out Fajardo was given what's called a vet day. He is expected to start against Calgary on Saturday night at Mosaic Stadium. This back-to-back series against the Stamps will be their first meeting of the season. It's definitely sweater weather, or, for some, feather weather. Despite the wind, it's still warm enough for Canada geese to stick around Regina's Wascana Lake, and humans haven't migrated indoors quite yet either. We'll be back after the break.
There are many people who elevate our community. CBC Future 40 will honor 10 Saskatchewanians under 40 making a difference. Nominate someone in your community today at cbc.ca/future40sk.
This weather update is brought to you by Capital Ford Lincoln. 22 model clear-out is on now.
Weather specialist Ethan Williams joins us now. Well, it seems the whole province experienced pleasant conditions today.
Yes, that's right, Natasha. Less of a big temperature spread. This time, 24 hours ago from now, we were seeing a 20-degree difference between communities on the western side of the province and on the eastern side, but that is really not the case this afternoon. That gradient getting smaller and really nice temperatures for, 6:15 in the evening on October 18th, really across the province. And this is the reason why. The jet stream really playing a big part of this. It's well to our north, or at least for a lot of us, and it has stretched eastward a little bit, so it's allowing some of that very warm air that they saw in Alberta and BC and are continuing to see to spill our way, and much of south and central seeing somewhat similar conditions. Now, I mentioned the jet stream really playing a big part of our weather story this week, and you can see much of Western Canada and the United States experiencing some very nice conditions. And then the jet stream forms this huge trough through the United States. And as we go further south, you can see it extends basically all the way to the Gulf of Mexico. There are freeze warnings in place for this part of the U.S. And in fact, in Tennessee today, They got snow before we did here, at least in the southern part of the province, but all good things must come to an end, and it looks like that jet stream is going to sink southward as we head through the rest of the work week. And in fact, by the time we get to the end of the week, it's going to be to our south, and it's going to be pulling down a bit of that cooler air from the north. And with that cooler air comes a little bit of moisture. But for the next 24, 48 hours here, we're sitting pretty nice. Conditions like we saw today. Really, the only moisture we're expecting is through the northern, very far north part of the province. Tomorrow evening could be about 0.5 to 1 millimeter in the very far north. And then another system working its way through on Thursday through the central part of the province, which could bring a millimeter or so. And then a little bit of mixed precipitation on Friday. We are then watching moisture through the weekend and perhaps a bigger system moving in the beginning of next week that we will be watching. Fog is possible tonight along the western half of the Churchill region and in central Saskatchewan. That could include Saskatoon. The far north likely going to be seeing fog as well. And as we check our visibility here, looks like the worst of it going to be building in around 6:30 tomorrow morning around La Ronge. Visibility down to just a few kilometers, so keep that in mind. Really going to be building in through far northeastern Saskatchewan. And in Prince Albert, I think the worst of it will be down only to around 11 kilometers, so it won't be too bad for you around 8:30, and then quickly burning off as we head through the morning hours. Now, winds tomorrow going to be pretty consistent throughout the province and going to be not bad at all. But as that system moves through central Saskatchewan on Thursday, we'll see winds pick up maybe 40, 50, maybe even close to 60 kilometers in some areas. And it looks like that wind sticks around as we head through the weekend, as well as we get a little bit of unsettled weather. We are watching for the possibility of that rain to build in Saturday and Sunday in Regina, and there could be significant amounts there, especially in Saskatoon is where I think it's going to be the most significant. And again, temperatures going to be dropping, those overnight lows getting quite low throughout the next few days, so could be a little bit of unsettled weather. We go from very much above seasonal for this time of year, Natasha, to below seasonal. We are changing pretty quickly.
Well, don't know how I feel about that, Ethan, but thanks for the forecast anyhow.
You're welcome.
Well, having less than $600,000 to spare is not going to help you if you want to own a Lamborghini, at least not one you can take for a spin. But this replica has the same dimensions as a real Lambo. It's made up of 400,000 Lego pieces and weighs about 2 tons. Visitors to the Paris Auto Show can use a touchscreen to trigger the sound of the engine and control the lighting. We'll be back after the break.
There are many people who bring success, innovation, accomplishment, and charity to our community. It's time to celebrate them. CBC Future 40 will honor 10 Saskatchewanians under 40 making a difference. Help us discover the inspiring people in our province by nominating a shining star in your community today. CBC Future 40. For details, visit cbc.ca/future40sk.
An old taxi scam is seeing new life. People pose as cab drivers, then steal debit cards and banking information from unwitting Good Samaritans. 2 women who were targeted in Toronto are using social media to warn others. Greg Ross reports.
So you steal money is what you do.
This video was posted to TikTok by Saja Kilani. She says the person in that car tried to steal her banking information.
The first red flag was that he asked for my cards.
Kilani says she was walking home after grocery shopping when she was stopped by a teenage boy.
This young man, I think he was around 15, 16 years old, he stops me and he says, hey, I just got this taxi. He doesn't take cash, he only takes card.
She says the boy told her that the cab fare was under $10 and that he would pay her the cash if she used her debit card to pay the taxi driver.
My first thought is he's young, I have a young brother, and if someone is in a desperate situation, I would want someone to help me in that situation.
Kilani agreed to help out. She says the taxi driver took her card and swiped it in his machine. She then typed in her PIN number. When the driver handed back the card to her, she realized it actually wasn't hers. It had a different name on it.
I opened the door, I leaned in, I didn't get into the car, but I leaned in and I said, you have my card, you put it in between your legs, I see it.
She says the driver did eventually hand the real card back to her. She says she still canceled it to ensure the scammers didn't get her money. Megan Honorado wasn't so lucky when the same thing happened to her back in the spring.
I didn't realize that there was anything wrong, and then later on that evening I was doing some online banking and noticed 3 separate transactions in my account that were not made by me.
Honorado says the purchases totaled about $1,400, which was eventually refunded by her bank. Both of these women posted their stories to social media, and in both cases, dozens of people responded, claiming that they were also victims of the same kind of scam.
They'll try to hit your limit as soon as they can, and they'll make purchases at various locations, and they will continue to use it until there's nothing left in the account.
Police say that you should never make payments for somebody that you don't know. And they say if you're going to use a debit or credit card to pay for a taxi, make sure it's a reputable company and that the driver has his identification on full display. Police also say you should always inspect your card when it's returned to you to make sure that it's yours. Greg Ross, CBC News, Toronto.
And Ethan is back with a look at tonight and tomorrow's forecast.
And it is looking not too bad, Natasha. We'll be above average in Regina tonight. 3 degrees at midnight. Nice light winds, partly cloudy conditions. Clouds will start to clear as we head through the morning hours. Tomorrow will be at 4 degrees under mainly sunny skies. Northwest winds picking up a little bit, but they won't be gusting too much tomorrow. It'll be a nice day. 13 degrees already by the time we hit the noon hour under mainly sunny conditions into the mid to upper 20s in southern Saskatchewan. In Saskatoon tonight, we're looking for clear skies at 7 degrees at midnight. Very warm, but there is the possibility we could see some fog patches. Those will clear out quickly tomorrow morning. Sunny conditions, 4 degrees at 8 a.m. And then as we head into the noon hour, we are looking for 14 degrees, a little bit of cloud cover building back in. Northwest winds around 14 kilometers an hour. If only every day could be like tomorrow, Natasha. Going to be beautiful.
Thanks, Ethan.
You bet.
It can be hard to pick the perfect holiday card, especially when none exist. A woman in the Toronto area couldn't find a single Diwali greeting card for her relatives, so she set about crafting her own.
Started off as a family project. The kids got involved. Everyone was home for those 2 years, so it was really for our family. We couldn't find any Diwali card on the market, which was very surprising for us. I remember just saying to my husband, like, I can't believe this. It's so many South Asian people and there's nothing. And that's where the idea kind of came that, okay, if there's Christmas cards everywhere, then maybe we should have Diwali cards. We started designing and creating, and then about 6 months later, we had started mobile cards. Feathers is a very South Asian type of design. Even our birthday cards, you'll see paisleys at the back. The response, when we started, the response is what blew me away. On Instagram, most small businesses have followings of about 1,000 people. We grew to 10,000 very quickly. So this is our romantic collection. Kuch Kuch Hota is a very famous movie. So when I see you, Kuch Kuch Hota, it means when I see you, I feel right. I feel something. John is basically a loving word to my life. It's one that has been like a huge success. So we started making Diwali gift packages. People are loving having everything put together for them and ready to go. What's really special about our South Asian culture is we actually do have a title for everything. Your mom's younger sister, your mom's older sister, your dad's younger brother is different from your dad's older brother. To actually be able to give someone a card that has the name that you call them was, I think, the most special thing that people really grabbed onto.
That's it for us tonight. For news anytime, head to cbc.ca/sask. You can also subscribe to the CBC Saskatchewan YouTube channel. Glenn Reed will be back with more local news at 11. Thanks for watching.